Okay, so let's see if we can get my camera adjusted right here. Okay, today we're going to be learning how to do create a feather on leather, a leather feather. And this is the leather here. And this leather is 2 to 3 ounces. It shouldn't be any thicker than that. This is a lot easier to work with. We'll be creating a feather that looks like this. We'll be creating the quill, and we'll also be creating the hair line that runs through the eagle feathers. So here's an example. There's another example that was made into a lapel pin. We have a few more that were painted, different designs. We do have a larger size. This was like an eagle feather imitation, looking like one. So today on the leather feathers, we will be creating this quill. And as you can see, this was an example that we did. This little stuff up here is actually this fine hair that is on an eagle feather. So we'll be creating this quill down the middle and also the hairlines that run through the eagle feather. So there's a lot of different feathers you can create, not just the eagle feather. We have a hawk feather. You could do blue jay feathers, bald eagle, and here's a couple that were made. She had put the teepee up the middle. So we're going to get started, and what you need is a pair of scissors. Those are always good to be on this side of you. A stylist, and these are 2 different kind of stylists. You can see the fine tip there. We're going to be able to draw just like if you were using a pencil. So we'll keep those close. We have a beveler, and the beveler will help us create the uplift dimension that's you see here in the middle. So we'll be able to run this down. There is, as you can see, it is beveled, and I'll show you how to use that to create that quill down the middle of that feather. And then we also have the swivel knife, and it's obvious why it's a swivel knife. It goes back and forth. We're going to be able to cut down this middle here and create that quill. And then this one is called the hairline tool, and this is what we're going to be able to create this hairline texture down the feather. So we do have a thicker slide, a thin slide, and a thicker slide, and we will be using the thicker slide. So I'll show you how to use that as well. A pattern, what we're going to be able to put down on our leather once we are ready and comfortable to create that feather, and we'll be able to use the swiveler or the stylist to create that pattern. So I'll also show you how to do that. And we also have thick leather or thick plastic pad. It's called a pound board. A lot of leather people who do a lot of leather work use it to, do their stamps. We're going to be able to use it when we start creating. So to start off, what I want you to do is we've given you a couple of pieces in your packs, and you're going to put that piece on the pound board, and you're going to always lightly keep it wet. So you could tell the difference here. I got a little bit too much on there. Let me wipe that off real fast, sorry. Okay, so this is what we want to be able to do. You want to have this color versus this color, and you'll understand once you get going and you kind of forget that you need it wet continuously, how much harder it is to work with when it's wet or dry versus when it's wet. So you always want to keep it this color. You can kind of see that there. Okay, not wet, but just damp enough. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your swivel knife, and you're going to, this joint here, you want to place that saddle right in there. And then you want to put your third and fourth finger around the swivel, and then your pinky will go on the blade. So that's what it looks like. And then like that, okay? It gives you a lot of control, and your two fingers are the one, and your thumb will be guiding you as you cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and practice. And as you notice here on this feather, it goes thick and it goes down into a V. So that's what we're going to practice doing, is going from the top. You want to kind of hold it at a 45-degree angle. So you're not, I don't know if you guys can see that. See if you can see it on this. So you're going to kind of hold it up, not directly down onto the leather, okay? So we're going to start, and we are going to keep it, and we're going to pull towards you. And you, depending on the thickness of your leather, is going to depend on how much pressure you put on the leather to create that cut. So in this case, I'm just going to go down and into a V, and they don't have to meet here. They just need to come slanted down as you go. What happens is here, if I'm on the dry and I'm trying to cut, it's a lot harder, and you don't feel the softness of the leather. And sometimes you can cut a little bit too deep. So you want to be able to have control. And if you do have a lot of pressure on there, you will end up cutting pretty deep through the leather, and we don't want that to happen. So again, put your first joint into the saddle, 3 and 4 fingers onto the swivel as long, and your thumb and your pinky on the blade. 45-degree angle, and you're going to pull downward, or you can pull towards you, okay, making that V. And you can practice before you do the get on the leather by just moving these back and forth to see how you can have your own control into moving on down to that leather and creating that V, okay? And as you can see, this is a great color. I'm getting a little dry here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my sponge, and I'm just going to wipe it just down a little bit so I have that moisture. And so now I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to get me a different slice so I can, piece of leather, so I can show you exactly what our next step is. So the first step is creating that quill that goes down the center of that feather, okay? So here we go. I'm going to put it this way. So what we're going to do is I am going to make my quill, making that V, okay? And I'm pretty much done with my swivel knife. And I want that a little bit damper. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your beveler. And this is going to create that raising cut line, adding dimension to your feather. And as you can see, there's a thicker end, a little thicker than this side. And at the side, you can see it's kind of shaped like a triangle there. What you want is this thicker piece to be pointed towards the hairline, okay? So it's, if some students hold it just like a pencil and they're able to bring it down, some people hold it and they think they have more control by bringing it down like that. Or, you know, It's up to you on what you're comfortable with, but you do need that thicker piece of it, part of that metal, right on the end of that leather there. Okay. And what you want to do is you just want to bring that right on down, follow it. And again, you are trying to create the center where it raises it up and gives it that little dimension that we want. And once you bring that down, you can go over 2 or 3 times. Whoops. 2 or 3 times, you know, kind of trying to give that raise to that quill that we're trying to create. And then just turn it around. And as you can see, you kind of have flattened that leather out and away from that quill. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And just push and pull towards you, following that line that you created with your swivel knife. Okay, so there we go. I kind of went a little bit too much there, but we should be all right. So we created that indentation, and it should look like this. So you have this smooth, and then you have, oops, you can't really see that. You could see it that way. And it kind of lifted that up, that whole line there, okay? So that's what we created here. You can see that. Okay, we kind of pulled that up and it's uplifted, giving it a 3-dimensional look. So we're done with that beveler. And I'm going to go ahead and wet my little leather here. Again, keeping that leather moist, not soaking wet. And then you're going to grab your hairline hand tool. And this hairline tool is going to create these little hairlines here. I don't know if you can see them, but if I put it to the side, you can kind of see them. There we go. And again, on the feather, you know how the feather has all those little individual hairs? That's what we're going to create. So what you're going to do is feathers on this, as you can see, a feather, the hairline does not come directly out. So we're going to have to keep our leather tool so that we're going to be pulling downward or at a slant. Okay. And when you start doing this, you don't want to go fast, because what will happen is, got a little example here, is you start getting a different texture versus something that looks like this. You know, that starts to lose its definition in the line that we're trying to create. So here we go. You want to get as close to that quill as you can, and you're going to pull downward. Okay, putting pressure and keeping it at the same pressure as you possibly can when you started. You can feel the difference as you work. It's okay if you do go off the leather. Just drag it right on out. Okay. And if you do miss a couple of pieces, you want to just come up and go over them. You don't want to go over them too many times, because then you lose the hairline and you're just flattening it down. Okay. So there you go. You created that hairline. You can see those. There we go. Okay. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just turn that right upside down and pull it all the way out using the same pressure that you did on the other side. Again, it's like math. Whatever you do to one side, you're going to have to do to the other side. So take your time. and just right up against the quill that you created and pull that outward. Okay. And make sure that you keep your scraps that you're practicing on, or your practice pieces. I shouldn't say scraps, your practice pieces. Pull that right on out and finish that off. Because out of your practice pieces, you'd be, whoops, that one I did a little bit too. And they're practice because they're practice pieces. However, we can always create something out of our practice pieces as well. So with this practice piece, as you can see, it's pretty. We got that quill to stand up. We got our hairline. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the feather. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. And we are going to grab our fresh piece of leather. Okay, I'm going to set that pound block aside, and I'm going to moisten that again because we're starting with a new piece. So just moisten that a little bit so it's workable. Okay, it's not soaking wet. And grab your pattern, and this is where our stylist comes in handy. Okay, so we just place our pattern there. We grab our stylist, oops, excuse me, and we're just going to use it just like a pencil, enough to go around and make the indentation so that we could start our feather. Okay, so this will give us a guide that at the end of putting our quill and our hairlines on, that we'll be able to cut that feather out. And there we go. It should look something, I don't know if you guys can see that. You can barely see like a faint marking along there, but the camera doesn't show it, but there is a marking. Okay, it does dry pretty fast, so just keep on dampening your leather. And we're going to put this pound block here. And what we're going to do is, again, now we're starting our project. Okay, and we're going to, again, saddle that first one in there, 3 and 4, 1 on the swivel. You got control there. And then we're going to go ahead and put that on a 45-degree angle and push and pull. Okay, again, we're going to be creating that V. There. And see how it started out thick and it went down thinner. So that's what you want to do. And then I'm going to use my bevel again. The thicker piece of the metal goes towards the hairline. So a lot of people have different ways of doing it. Again, people hold it like they were doing the bevel. Some hold it like a pencil. I've found a way either like this. You don't want it flat either. So you want to have it kind of like at an angle. That's why it's a bevel. I hold mine like this, which works for me. You can try, different ways that might feel comfortable to you. So here we go. There we go. There's one side. Again, 2 to 3, 4 times down the middle of that line that you created with your swivel knife, creating the quill down the middle of the feather. Okay, so once you got that, you can see the depth of that quill. And as soon as we there you go, you kind of see that a little bit deeper there. Then you want to grab your hairline tool, and you are simply going to Go from the top. You don't want to go way up here. You want to go start as soon as at the end of that quill mark, and you're going to pull downward. I go all the way off just so that you hear that thunk, thunk. That way you know that you're covering all of the outside of the feather, the tracing that we put on there. And take your time. Say I missed a piece up here perhaps. I can always go up there and go right over what I have done. Take your time. And you can see we are gradually creating that hairline. Okay, see that. And then just for time's sake, I am going to go ahead and say I finished this, put all my hairlines in there, and I'm going to take my scissors and you're just going to cut around where you traced your feather. That's going to create our feather. So with your stylist, when you went and traced that pattern, creating your feather. Okay. And there you go. So we're going to try and get this look. So the next thing you want to do is, as you notice that we didn't go all the way to the end with our hairline, nor did we go all the way with our swivel knife and our bevel technique that we did there to create that quill. What you're going to do is you're going to go 3 times all the way to the end of the quill. You don't want to cut across that. You're going to stop right at the end, and you're going to do 3 little cuts here, which is going to create this little fine hair on the feathers. Okay, and then you turn it over and you do the same thing. You just imagine the quill being there. Don't go over. Okay, and you don't want to go too close here because we need to still create that little hole. So there you go. I got that done. So we're at this stage. Okay, we've created our feather. We've created the quill, and we have the hairlines, and then we have these little fine hairs here that are on an actual feather. Okay, so these are just accent marks, and what you do, I'll just go ahead and make another one, is just to cut into the feather and just make a triangle or a slant, and that creates that look. Okay, so once we're here, we're ready to get started on painting, and we're going to move all our equipment off there. And I usually have a paper that I put down so that our surface area doesn't get messed up. And you will be able to use 3 colors. Again, we'll be creating feathers like this. There's a blue one. There's a eagle feather one. And then we have this. We also have one that has a face in it, and here's a red one. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the red one for this one. And I'm just going to move these out of the way so that they don't get ruined. So we have our feather. We will need a cup of water with our brush. I usually have some paper towels, but I don't have one of those here. So here we go. We have white, red, and we have black. Okay, So I'm going to show you how to get started here. We usually give you a couple of brushes so that you're able to switch on and off to doing texture. And so I'm going to start with the white, and we just kind of want to put it into 3. So you just kind of have to imagine these lines here, and you're going to start painting that white. You kind of just want to put it into a U as I go ahead and draw the U and paint that whole feather. There's no hurry. Take your time. Okay. It could be a steep U. It could be a gradual, but you want to create that U. So, okay. There. And you want to make sure that you get the edges. So just pick that up and get your edges. It's okay if you get the back of your feather because we'll be painting that side as well. Okay, so let me rinse my little brush off a little bit. Use my apron, I guess. And then I'm going to go on to my red, and I'm going to create that U right off the bat. Okay, go right up and do right up to the white there. Okay, so it's a little thin there, but just keep on going. Again, it's okay if you get it on the back because we'll be painting the back as well. Like to hold mine in my hand and then make sure you do the sides. Okay. So it's a pretty thin piece of leather, so it's okay. So on the back, we're going to be painting that as well. And what we do on the front is what we're going to do on the back. So that looks pretty good. Once your white is dried, I'm going to show you how to blend. Put some paint on there, and you're going to just dab this because we're going to blend this red into the white. So it doesn't look like it's just straight across. So you're basically getting some paint, dabbing it on your paper to kind of get rid of some of that paint, and then dabbing it so that it gets that little blending look there. You don't want too much, but just enough. Okay. So you're trying to get this effect here where it goes to a darker purple, to a light, to a pink, and then on up. Same thing here. Kind of blended that black color. On this one, you can see it's more pronounced. Okay. And then we'll be creating that hairline there on the back of the feather, but on the front we have that quill, and that's what that black line is going to be. So here we go. Okay, so you're just tapping that, blending that in. It looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush off. And I'm going to, again, use my apron. We'll have some towels for you, or you can get some paper towels. Okay, again, we're just painting. And your red looks like it's pretty dry. Dry paint, oops. Dry paint the sides here. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing, get some of that black off, and I'm going to go on and try to blend that into the red. So it doesn't look like I just did a straight across like that. Okay. So there we go. Looks pretty good. Kind of blended that. Okay. So there you go. You have your one side of your feather. And what you're going to do is once this is dry, you're going to flip it to the other side. And you're going to continue painting it. So I'm just going to, seems like it's pretty good. You want to make it so that it's completely dry. But for time's sake, I'm going to pretend like I completely had it dry. And you're just going to match your white up on that side to this side, the same side. So looks pretty good. And just spread that paint on there. This side soaks it up a little bit more than the front side, but it's still workable. So okay. Rinse my brush off. I did trade brushes because my other brush had black on it. I'm going to grab some red. I'm going to paint that up there. Okay. Again, turning it to its side, and it looks like I need to go down a little bit more. And don't forget to paint your sides. Looks like it's okay. And I got a little red there, which is okay. So you have your red and your black there. Okay, so everybody paints different. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my red, and I'm going to do get rid of some of that and go up. Try to blend that white in. And as you can see, I'm just dabbing just to kind of blend that, get rid of that straight across line that we created there. You just kind of play around with that technique so that, I mean, what feels comfortable to you may not be comfortable for me or your peers, but yeah. So black's pretty dark, so I'm just going to grab some of that black, fill the rest of my feather in. Okay. Don't forget to paint the side of it. Don't rush. Paint around. Looks like I got it pretty well. Again, I want to blend that. Okay. You're just blending it in by just tapping your paintbrush. There you go. So that's your front, or actually my front got wet or paint on it. So see what we can do to fix that up. Just grab some of your red. And there you go. Voila. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, and I'm going to show you with a feather that we did earlier. Right here. So we did this a little bit earlier. So once your feather is dry, we'll, the next step is to just let it fully dry. I'm gonna put that one aside. This one we did this morning and the feather is dry. Okay, so we're pretty much done with our paints. And so I'm gonna go ahead and cover those up and put those aside. Oh, I know what else we forgot. So grab some of this white. You do have a small tipped feather or small tipped paintbrush. And we're gonna add, make sure you don't put it where paint is. I'm gonna move my camera just a hair and we'll put it on the back. As you can see, there's a little discoloration, so you could just take your paintbrush and put red and dab it, okay? The last step is to put the 4 dots or 3 dots. 4 dots, I'm gonna put 4, okay? And that's pretty much putting a completion on your leather feather. Okay, I'm gonna put that aside and let that dry. And so the final step, which would probably be your next class period, would be, I'm gonna put this aside as well, is to take your feather, and I'm going to put this up. And I am going to grab well, I was going to grab a new sheet of paper, but I don't have one here, so we'll work with a couple of Post-its. Okay, sorry about that. So, a couple of Post-its, but you'll be using paper. And what you're going to do is our last step for this feather is to seal it. And what we're going to do to seal that is use a leather sheen. Okay, so we want to make sure that we mix that up really good. Usually we have just a little cup, but today I am going to place them in this cap. And you grab a clean, one of your clean brushes. And it doesn't take much to cover this. And what this does is it gives it that shiny finish sheen. Okay, so, and I'm not sure if you can really tell on here that this one's a little bit shinier than this one. Okay, so that's the effect that we're going to try and get. This step does not take much, or you don't have to use a lot of the sheen. Probably one brush full will cover the whole feather. Just bring that off on. And it looks like it's white, but it dries. Oops. Didn't even think, I was thinking I'm grabbing paint there. We can go ahead and bring that on down. Okay, we can take some of that, scoop that on down. Make sure you get your edges. Again, no rush. You still have some on the brush. You can still see it. It's able to use some of that on the back as well. So a little bit goes a long ways. Okay. Grab just a little bit more. Make sure you get in between those cut hairlines. I'll move that aside. Okay, so it does look milky, a milky color when you put it on, but it does dry shiny. There we go. And there you go. And what you want to do is you will cut a piece of leather that you're able to use. We do have leather hole punchers. You're able to, we'll use this one, punch right in the middle of that quill. Okay, creating that hole so that you're able to take a piece of leather and you'll thread it through, creating that. So I hope you guys enjoyed making a leather feather. You will have an opportunity to make a small one like this size, which you can create a lapel pin with, and you will have an opportunity to make a larger one, which is like this. And we will also be creating a feather out of rawhide. Grab that, sorry. Out of rawhide, red seems to be my favorite color this month. Out of rawhide, and you'll be able to go through those techniques of sanding it and shaping it and then painting it in the same manner as we just did. Okay, so everybody have a good day, have fun, and I will see you in class. Thank you.